My name is Kelly Cochran. I married my high school sweetheart, Jason Cochran, in 2002. In October 2014, I lured Christopher Regan, whom I had been having an affair with, to my home before my husband, Jason, shot him in the head. We then dismembered him and dumped his body parts in the woods. It was later revealed that I made a pact with my husband on our wedding night, promising each other that we would kill anyone we had an affair with. 16 months later, after the trail had gone cold, investigators were suspicious after my husband Jason was found dead, having allegedly died of an overdose at our home in Indiana. I later admitted to injecting my husband with heroin and covering his mouth and nose until he suffocated. I also confessed to the plot that led to Christopher Regan's death. In 2017, I was sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Christopher Regan, with an additional 65-year sentence for the murder of my husband. I also gave hints to authorities that I may be responsible for more deaths.
This is Brandy Hutchins, a 43-year-old mom of two, another person in a custody fight. And this is her ex-husband, a man who goes by Hutchins Race on Facebook. The two had a court date in Florida to discuss custody of their 10-year-old son. After hearing arguments, the judge ordered that her son be turned over to her ex-husband. He had traveled all the way from Maine for this court date to exchange their child. The judge gave a deadline, and when that deadline came and went, Brandy was nowhere to be found. Then, days later,
Brandy Hutchins, the mother of the 10-year-old, the mother of the 19-year-old, from every indication in our investigation now, has murdered her 10-year-old child and her 19-year-old child.
Brandy had no criminal history and, according to officials, showed no signs as a threat to her child.
And then subsequent to that, she herself. I can't imagine a more horrific set of circumstances.
And according to Sheriff Judd, they did everything they could to find her and her children before it was too late.
All because mom did not want to turn the child over to the rightful father pursuant to a court order.
Now, I don't know the details of this case, and everything I can find, this is a good man, a good father. But I do know one thing. The family courts are driving people crazy. They're driving people to the point of no return. I'm tired of reading heartbreaking stories like this. Something's got to be done. But unfortunately, there's no end in sight.
Have you ever wondered what a serial killer's last words were? Probably not, but I'm here to tell you anyways. First up, Jeffrey Dahmer, who killed 17 men. His final words were apparently, "I don't care if I live or die, go ahead and kill me." Same. Next up, Albert Fish. He apparently killed between 10 and 400 people. That's quite a big gap, but that's all I can find. So he was executed, and apparently his last words were, "I don't even know why I'm here." Oh, I don't know, Albert. Maybe it's the between 10 and 400 people you apparently killed. Next is Ted Bundy. He was proven to have murdered 30 people, but he claims 36, but the police think it could be over 100. And his last words were, "I'd like to give my love to my family and friends." Next is John Wayne Gacy, or the Killer Clown. He's said to have killed 33 people. John Wayne Gacy was really giving class with his final words, really kept it fancy. His last words were very simple, 3 little words, "Kiss my ass." Next is someone I've not heard of before. His name is Carl Pizran. I don't know how to say his last name, but he killed 22 people, so it doesn't really matter that much. As they were setting up his execution, he got a bit impatient. They were taking too long for his liking. So his last words were, "I could kill 10 men while you're fooling around." That's crazy. Those were his last words. Okay, ever. It's James French, and he was said to have killed 2 people. which actually doesn't make him a serial killer, but I like his last words, so I'm going to keep him in here. So he was given the death penalty, electric chair to be specific. And remember, his name was James French, okay? This man's last words were, how's this for a headline? French fries. So yeah, those are some serial killers' last words. Hi, I'm Meg. I post a bunch of true crime content, so if you're into that, make sure you follow. Well, I hope you found those interesting. If you want more, make sure to let me know. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.
Back in the summer of 2020, Tess and Chris Strickland of New Orleans, Louisiana welcomed their first baby, a baby boy named Rivers. And not long after Rivers was born, Tess noticed some marks around his eyes and some bruising on his head. So she tells the pediatrician about this, and the pediatrician does some lab work, doesn't find anything wrong, but goes ahead as a precaution and refers Rivers to a blood specialist. In a video that can be found on WDSU News, Tess states that the blood specialist also could not find anything wrong and said that they would just monitor the situation. So at Rivers' 8-week well baby appointment, the pediatrician asked Tess if she's noticed any other bruising, and Tess says yes, that in fact she has. Tess, in this video, admits that she pulls out her phone and she shows the pediatrician other photos of bruising on Rivers. At this time, she says that the pediatrician leaves the room and then returns to the room, and the pediatrician tells her that she has had to call Child Protective Services. An ER doctor that saw Rivers diagnosed Rivers with capillary fragility, which supposedly is just easy bruising. But we're talking about an 8-week-old infant here. The next day, investigators came to their house and stated that they did not find any reason to believe that Rivers had suffered from abuse. However, a child abuse specialist disagreed and said that there was nothing else besides abuse to explain the things that were happening to him, these bruises. The day after that visit, Rivers was removed from the home by Child Protective Services. In an investigation by the state found that the claims of abuse against Tess and Chris were valid. Therefore, their names would be placed on a national child abuse registry. Now, names are placed there a lot of times regardless of whether or not charges are dropped or they're found innocent, and they begin a legal battle to try to get their names removed from this registry. Around September of 2022, Tess and Chris welcomed a second child into their family, and this second child was a little girl who they called Lo. On February the 28th of this year, Chris took 5-month-old Lo to the Children's Hospital. The Children's Hospital found Lo to have brain trauma, burst retinas, bruising on her belly, and ribs that had been broken weeks prior. Now, little Lo passed away from these injuries on March the 2nd of this year. Chris Strickland's criminal defense attorney said that they were wrongly accused in 2020 and that they are being wrongly accused now. She says that his arrest was based on incorrect assumptions by inaccurate medical science. So what do you guys think about this case? Allegations of abuse against their older child back in 2020. And then this sweet baby girl that passed away from horrendous injuries in 2023. Is he being wrongly accused, or is there something here? Okay, guys, you asked for part 2, so this is a part 2 on the death of infant Louisa Strickland from New Orleans, Louisiana. So the wording of this article is a little strange. It says that the father, Chris Strickland, brought Lo to the Children's Hospital, but then it says that she was brought by an ambulance. So here's what happened. Chris told doctors that he had put Lo in her room and left her for 5 or 10 minutes while he went to make a bottle and check on the dogs. He said that when he returned that she was barely breathing. According to court documents, Chris admitted to, quote, violently shaking Lo to try to revive her, and that he was told to give her CPR by the 911 dispatcher. He claimed to doctors at the hospital that during this attempt to perform CPR that he heard, quote, crunching sounds, and that the baby began to aspirate on her formula. Now, a PICU social worker actually called police and reported the child's injuries. In this report, she tells police that the child had rib fractures and a head injury that, quote, likened to a car accident, a high altitude fall, a head crush injury, or forceful shaking. A forensic medical report showed that Louisa's rib fractures were anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks old, and that her head injury is what led to her death. The coroner in this case officially ruled her cause of death as abusive head trauma as a result from shaking, and the manner of death was ruled a homicide. The Strickland's firstborn child, their son Rivers, was taken from the home for about a week back in 2020. But after that week, he was returned to the home when a judge found that there was no reason for him to be taken from his parents. He was the one that saw the blood specialist. I'm assuming that this was a pediatric hematologist, and I would also imagine that there was much testing done on this child and nothing was found wrong. I know some of you have mentioned rickets and osteogenesis imperfecta, which could explain some of the fractures, but it is not going to explain the shaken baby, the brain trauma. It is also not going to explain the retinal hemorrhages. And in addition to that, there have been no other reports of any issues with older brother Rivers since he was returned back to the family. Now, since baby Lo passed away, of course, Rivers has been taken from the home again. He is living with his grandparents, and the father, Chris, has been released on bond. As far as I can find, I don't see any dates yet set for any further court cases or a trial in this case.
Kat corroborates Chandler's story. Kat shows detectives a video of Chandler that's timestamped on July 4th.
And then we left around 6:30 because he had to be home before 8 to feed the dogs their dinner. And so we left around 6:30, probably got to my mom's house. There's a garbage or a bathroom. I think I look really sus if I stand up and run out of here. I'm not trying to get tackled. I'm not going to tackle you. No. You too. Oh. You're good. Okay.
After enjoying fireworks at Dan's house, then going back to Chandler's for the night, the two woke up together Monday morning. Kat left for work shortly before 8 a.m. Chandler supposedly spent the morning playing video games and watching TV. He then made a rather spontaneous visit to the farm by himself.
So at the end of the day on Monday, I did go for the afternoon. I did go to the farm to talk to Chris and Kat's mom. I told them what's happening with my health because I had the appointment at 2.
Did you go to the farm before or after?
After, because I told them what happened to me. And I told them the legs are probably going to be permanent and the headaches should be fixed after the hemorrhage is cleared a little bit.
Chandler is speaking like someone who's trying to jog their memory. He must know that the interrogation isn't some sort of memory test, but he seems keen on recalling every detail, perhaps hoping that providing such detail will mean that he won't be considered a suspect. An innocent person would reasonably want to cough up as much information as possible. However, focusing on details could also be Chandler's way of diffusing any stress or anxiety he's feeling.
Where are we?
Sunday. So you were swimming, having a breakdown. What were you having a breakdown about?
You ever have your legs stuff? Yeah, no, I haven't. Just, I don't even know if they're done getting as bad as they can be yet. So that's not fun.
And I think you were telling me last night it's a symptom of a concussion, right?
So that's not it. It's a symptom of nerve damage from the hip to my spine. So it's permanent.
Okay, I understand that now better.
Yeah, I go to dinner at Kat's house on the east side.
Okay. What time do you think that was?
It had to be 7:30. I left the farm. I think we just eat and cuddle a little bit.
Okay.
When I go home.
So I'm doing good, so I'll let you keep going. I really try to remember things. And then Sunday woke up, got ready.
Sunday or Monday?
Monday, sorry. left around 7:40 because I took a picture at 7:33 of us. Then I went to work. I don't know if you want to see a picture of me at my job because I took a picture in the hazardous section, in the hazardous medication.
So far, Kat comes across as open and forthcoming with detectives. She answers all of their questions in detail and offers up photos and timestamps readily and frequently without being asked. On the other hand, this does all seem a tad convenient. This behavior seems unusual but may indicate her willingness to be cooperative.
From there, I went to my mom's house because Chandler went to the farm because my mom's fiance lets him walk in the pool because that's one of the things we did Sunday because it helped stretch out his legs, make him feel better because I also helped stretch his legs on Friday because he has some tired numbness, that's the word, and from his fall he had a couple weeks back.
From there, Kat's account of Monday night mimics Chandler's. They met up at Kat's mom's house sometime around 8 p.m., ate dinner, and watched TV together. Then Chandler left, and they spent the night in their respective homes. We pick our tale back up on Tuesday morning.
Dan is worried about my mom on Tuesday, I think. Did he call? I said no word from, I don't know if he called or texted. I think he just contacted. That's what I can think of. Reached out. Yeah, he reached out. Then I'm like, oh, it's Tuesday morning. They should be here. No worry. I think I called my mom that day.
So from the time they left, did you talk to them at all when they were? I got a text. You got the one text that you mentioned earlier. Didn't like it, right? Yeah. But that was it. Nothing else.
Yeah. So that's fishy to me, even the text, because I realized Memorial Day is when the White Light Parade is.
Oh, sure.
There's no 4th of July. Maybe there's cheap drinks, but there's no parade at White Lake on the 4th. Then I started trying to get the glass. So I got a little lazy on the glass. I just kind of had chairs in front of it. My blood was kind of on the floor, so I got the Swiffer I borrowed from Kat. I Swiffered the floor, and then I got a little bit in the kitchen. And then everywhere kind of I walked, pretty much. The bathroom, the kitchen, and then I couldn't get the carpet, so I still stained that up real crappy.
While it's possible that the bloody toe and the explanation behind it are all true, traces of blood at a crime scene are always a red flag to law enforcement. They'll likely be checking out these stains in order to gauge whether they really might have come from a cut, or if they were clearly caused by something else. One must wonder if Chandler has ever heard of a Band-Aid.
I just tried to stop all the bleeding, but it wouldn't stop. So
that blood was all coming from your left foot.
Yeah, left foot hole.
Left foot hole.
Yeah.
I mean, are we talking massive amounts of blood, or are we talking, a little bit, describe?
It started as drops until I got to the bathroom. And then I got back to go grab my sock and some of the paper towel. And I see the glasses in there, so I grab a tweeze and I pull it out. And then it starts squirting out. And I got a little bit of the rock. It wasn't that bad of the rock. But I think the worst was that floor. It kind of like this lid puddles.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't good.
Are we talking the floor down in the basement?
Well, that one, and then I go upstairs to the kitchen, and it's still going, and I'm trying to get my foot in the sink just to slow it down and pinch it maybe.
Chandler continues with a highly detailed account of his every move. He's sticking to his strategy of providing a description of every single step. However, his constricted emotions and facial expressions make it difficult to read whether this is a symptom of anxiety or a genuine attempt to be helpful.
It's work today for only 30 minutes.
Why only 30?
I was trying. Okay. I'm an emotional person. That's what you're crying about. My boyfriend's parents are missing. Like, I think it's more concerning if I wasn't concerned. I'm a very emotional person. Like, I cry enough for both of us, is like what I like to say.
Sure.
Like, it's like I hang out with the family often, you know. There's parents, they're important.
As far as the blood on your foot, how did you clean that up? So we were talking, you had blood on Swiffer Wet Jet. Okay, Swiffer Wet Jet. And where did you get that from?
Chad let me borrow it.
Where's it at now?
I returned it.
Okay, yeah. Did you use anything else?
Hydrogen peroxide for the tiles and the hard floors. Just the big globs needed a little bit.
Hydrogen peroxide. Did that seem to help get rid of the blood?
Well, it hurt my foot. That stuff, it didn't really help. Okay, it kind of just made a mess. Well, when I had some blood on the basement, I used the peroxide.
Okay, basement floor and tiles in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I peroxide. It wasn't as much. Like, there were, like, this size pools in the kitchen. Okay. I was pinching it pretty dang hard.
Piece of shit serial killer Billy Chamirmir has been found dead in prison. In case you're not familiar with who he is and what he's about, this piece of shit was suspected in killing over 18 women. I believe he was found guilty on 1 count and sentenced to 2 life sentences for those murders. They found him dead today in prison. From what I'm hearing, he was out basically trying to use a phone or whatever happens, and an inmate stabbed him to death, completely ended him. Now, like I always tell you about these demonic motherfuckers, this guy was running around taking advantage of innocent women, killing them, torturing them, serial killer piece of shit, demonic from hell. Well, he comes to prison, and now the reality sets in. You're no longer around a bunch of vulnerable people. You're around men that are frustrated, angry, missing their families, want money, want to have something bigger than themselves to live for. And in comes this creepy, demonic serial killer motherfucker who kills people for his own demonic pleasures. Well, apparently, accidentally, however it happens, he got caught at the wrong place at the wrong time, got stabbed the fuck up, and he was officially pronounced dead today. Doesn't matter, you're high profile. When it's your time to get got, you're gonna get got. And put it like this. Just like if you were in the free world and I was your neighbor and a chomo moved in next door, you and I would do everything to get him out of the community. Well, in prison, it's the same thing. We don't want to live with that bullshit. We don't want to be around those sick, demonic motherfuckers, but we handle it in a way that a lot of people wish they could out here in the free world. Or a lot of times someone reaches out to a guard or an inmate and they reach out to the guard and say, hey, I can get us like $10,000. Let me hit this dude up. The guard might accidentally open a couple doors. Next thing you know, dude's getting poked up until he can't even move anymore. And the guard will write it up like, oh, it was a fight, or they'll say the guy was on drugs, and they'll go plant drugs in the fucking serial killing piece of shit cell. There is no love for those motherfuckers ever. You reap what you sow. You know, while you're going through the case, you're getting all these fan mail, people are loving you, but eventually the victims, the convicts, and the COs, they remember what happened. It might be 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, but your ass is gonna get hit up. They all do the same thing. They're tough, big, bad, killing motherfuckers, right? When it comes to vulnerable people, weaker people in our society. The second they get to prison around a bunch of angry men that aren't vulnerable, that are violent and ready for whatever comes their way, that's when they put on that mask of, oh, I'm just an old man. I'm sorry. No, fuck that. We see through all that shit. We've seen a million of you motherfuckers. That's what it is. So he was taken out, pronounced dead today. Done. Stay out, stay free. Us.
Breaking news, a woman has been found mysteriously deceased in her apartment. However, her iPhone and computer were still in use. Family members say they became concerned late last week when they were unable to reach her. Then suddenly her iPhone messages turned from blue to green. Officers then responded to a welfare check around 4 p.m. on Tuesday. That is when they found the deceased victim and later identified her as Melissa Mooney. They also stated they believe her life was taken in the apartment. Her sister said, quote, "Whoever did it stole her belongings because they're trying to sell her iPhone and MacBook. Her iCloud had an alert like she was on it." Authorities say how her life was taken is unknown, but an autopsy is expected to be conducted. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments. Breaking news, they have now released all of the details regarding the crime scene in the Delphi case as well as Richard Allen's connection. Due to the graphic nature of the documents, I cannot read them. You will have to pause to read. With that being said, what you are about to read is extremely disturbing. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments.
And curtain number 1 is correct. Wait. You don't remember what she looks like?